Okay. So Shuchi, can you tell us something about yourself?
My total experience is 9.5 years. So 7.5 years it's in manual testing, that is functional, and 2 years is into automation. So I'm doing automation with using Selenium with Java,
Hmm.
and I have basic knowledge about API, which I'm trying to do manually using Postman tool.
Hmm.
And the kind of projects I'm handling are basically mobile games, mobile applications, the e-commerce domain, the desktop applications, these things.
Right, right. So can you tell me the test scenarios? How will you test the e-commerce based application?
For e-commerce based applications, basically the most prior thing is basically checking of the checkout page as well as checking of the payout page, right? Firstly, like I will start with when you place an order in an application, you have to check like the order is properly placed on reflecting on the page or not, the
Hmm.
shopping cart. Once clicking on the product, you can check if it is redirecting to the correct product or not. You can zoom in or zoom out, whatever feature is available on the website for the product. There is one more button over the checkout page, that is continue to shopping. So we can check if we can continue to again for shopping or not, or is it like blocking me on the same page.
Hmm.
After like you have checked all those cases, you can also check in it like adding or lessen up the quantity if it is working, deleting the quantity, is it working or not. And then once you are good to go with the product, you have to go with on the payment gateway basically. So once you check the checkout thing, you will be asked to sign in case you are not a registered user. So you can sign in over there, and then again you will be redirected to the checkout page where you will be next asked to put in your address, your pin code, your details, like telephone number, naming. And when you put all those details, you will be further asked for the payment gateway or the mode of payment, basically what you are up to, like whether it is through cash or any credit card or debit card. Those things will be asked over there. Once you select the payment gateway and go through it, you will maybe even asked for any kind of promo code or coupon code to apply for the particular product. So these things are basically the runtime thing which comes maybe with the product. It's reflecting over the website. So once you check out the page, you perform the payment also, then you should get the confirmation regarding the product placed. Then even the confirmation mail should have information about the product you have ordered and the delivery time when it will be delivered to the particular address.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Now, can you write a Java program for, I'll give you one array in which we have to move all the zeros in an array to the end, right? You can share your screen. Maybe you can write it in the notepad or you can write it in the Eclipse or IntelliJ, whichever you are comfortable with. Right.
So I'm not comfortable in writing programs actually right now.
Okay, okay. No issues. That's absolutely fine. Okay. So can you tell me the logic are you comfortable with the logic or you are still learning Java?
So still learning. Basically for programming, like you can ask for anything besides when you write about the code, it's difficult for me.
Okay, okay. No issues. That is fine. Okay. Now, can you tell me the what is implicit weight and what is explicit weight?
So implicit weight, basically we put, firstly I would like to say like weight is the thing which we introduce when for reducing the synchronization issues basically. So
Mhm.
there are two kinds of weight, one is implicit and one is explicit. Implicit weight we put in those conditions, you want to have the one weight for complete page, basically you put the implicit weight and mention the time over there. And explicit weight is like in case you know that particular web element has some issue of synchronization and you want to place that weight only to that web element. So in that case, you can go for explicit weight. And implicit weight is basically put as a global, at a global level, basically on the class.
Mhm. Okay. What is the default wait time for implicit wait?
Um, it's 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's actually 30 seconds, right?
30 seconds.
They provide a default waiting time for 30 seconds between each consecutive test type, or you can say command across the entire test script. Okay. Now, how do you write the test cases? Do you use some test management tool or do you use Excel file to write test cases?
We use this Excel file basically, and for bug tracking, we are using Mantis.
Okay, great. Great. Is it possible to integrate JMeter with Selenium?
Yeah, it is possible.
So how can we achieve
Because
that? Yeah.
I have not worked on JMeter, but I have the idea like now the performance tool is also integrated with the Selenium further. And basically, people are going for JMeter just for the performance thing where you can measure like for how many virtual users and the application is basically working, and how you can increase the threshold and get to know the application is sluggish or whether it is good to go. These things, stress, load, all those points are basically tested using JMeter with Selenium.
Mhm. Right. Now, let's say there is a project which has recently started, and of approximately there are 5 developers, and you have 2 QA members with you, and you are leading the QA process over there. Okay. Now, you are working on agile methodology. You get some user stories for testing, but sometimes you feel that the build or the release that they have deployed is not up to the mark, and after 2 or 3 hours, you come to know that so many XYZ kind of list of things were missing from the deployment or build itself. So how will you overcome such kind of challenge?
Actually what happens sometimes, it happens like this, we come to know like some requirements are missing, they are not up to the mark.
Hmm.
First thing is like we have to go through the requirements very properly
Hmm.
and make a clear understanding with the team as well, what are the requirements and what needs to be done in the particular sprint. Secondly, when we are very clear with the sprint, what are the user stories and what needs to go, we have to make sure that there is no resource crunch at the time of deployment, because many times it happens, you are done with the QA part, and when it's about to release, we have resource crunch and we come to know there is some issue with the some bugs also at the release time. So we have to make sure that we have some kind of team members which can work on in such circumstances also. Thirdly, just to avoid all those circumstances, we should definitely work on more and more test cases, so that when you work on test cases, you have an thought process that it's not a monotonous thing, that agile is an process which is completely not a stoppable process. It goes on it's an iteration process basically. So we as a QA testers also should have mind to make it deploy with different kinds of scenarios, so that it misses any kind of bug basically.
Right. So let's say if there is no resource crunch, you had demanded 2 resources in your team for testing this particular project. And from development side also, there is no resource crunch. They have a good clarity on requirements as well. But sometimes, these are deployment issues that you are getting in the project. Sometimes they have not checked in the code 100%, or sometimes in the deployment, their code has not come. So still the things which you were feeling that you would be working in the build or release are not working as per the expectations, right? So how will you overcome this challenge?
Then we
Any
have to understand basically what kind of issues are coming. Maybe we have missed cross browser testing, we have missed testing the application on different gadgets or operating system. So what kind of bug is actually coming in deployment? Or maybe there is difference of environment also in staging, in deployment the environment is different, the configuration is different. So we have to understand what is different and what is missing basically, and what kind of bug is basically occurring at that stage.
Correct, correct. This is a good point. Okay. Now, let's say you have 2 environments. One is development and one is test environment. In the development environment, generally testers don't test. They only do the testing in the test environment. Now, in the development environment, things are working fine. So what they have done is they have taken that particular piece of code and they have put into the test environment. Then they have created a release for you. Now you don't find that release, up to the mark. You don't find it that it is that much stable. But how you will come to know after 3 to 4 hours of testing? Let's say two testers are there, they will start their story testing, they will start the test case execution, and they will test till, let's say, 25th or 26th test case out of total 100 test cases they have, and they'll come to know, okay, this release is not acceptable. So how will you make sure that this feedback comes up on the surface at a very beginning level, right? So
Um,
what kind of testing will you perform?
Yeah, for very beginning level, basically, we have to make sure we are done with smoke testing, basically. Because if I talk about an example of my project in mobile gaming also, smoke testing have the test cases, like we first of all check what all permissions are already added in the application. Maybe it is missing any kind of permission, which is very important to adhere and add in the application. Secondly, we can check like what kind of, what is the size of the application, is it increased in, and we have to ask with the development team also why the size has increased, what is the reason of increase of size.
Mm.
Thirdly, we have to check like whether it is working properly across all browsers or across all gadgets. So these points basically are covered in at the time of smoke testing itself, and when we get the thing like it is good to go in smoke, then only we consider all other test cases.
Fine. Yeah. So that's a good point. Smoke testing should be done. Okay. Now, can you tell me the generic test scenarios if you have some mobile application to be tested? What all test scenarios from positive and negative testing point of view will you perform?
For positive flow, basically, we will check like my application is when I'm clicking the app icon, is it opening or not? In case like I'm inside the application, how much it is taking to open, or whether it is very sluggish to use. Thirdly, I will check like the navigation should be really good friendly, so that I could understand what is the application about and navigate across all the pages. Fourthly, I will check like even placing the application in foreground or background. Is it working in the same way, or I'm losing the data somewhat? On fifthly, like in case I have an access of server end also, I will check like the transaction, whatever the activities I'm doing on the application, is it reflecting properly on the dashboard end also or not? So these are the positive test scenarios, like the according to requirements, it should work. In negative scenario, basically, I will check like how the application behaves online and offline, how the application behaves when there are interruptions, like any kind of SMS or any kind of calls are coming, how it is behaving. Thirdly, I can also check with the like mobile applications in iOS also, we have push notifications. So clicking the push notifications, whether they are exactly opening the app or whether the app is getting crashed at that moment, then I can check the what kind of alerts basically the application should show when we have one permission of vibration also added in Android apps and iOS. So is it really vibrating when sound is off? So all those things are tested in positive as well as negative scenarios.
Correct. Looks good. Okay. Now let's say if there are a couple of team members who are junior to you, they have 2 to 3 years of experience and they are working with you in your testing team. Now you are supposed to review their test cases. So which are the different parameters that you will consider at the time of reviewing the test cases?
Okay. While reviewing the test cases, firstly, I would like to prioritize my test cases, because the reviewing of each and every test case is really very hard job, which cannot be done also. So we have to prioritize what are the blockers, what are the critical test cases which has to be work done. Thirdly, I will prioritize what are the minor things which, in case if they are not working, if they are masked or if they are latent, what are those cases. And fourthly, I will then go for cosmetic or UI kind of issues which are not that kind of important also. And in that case also, it depends like on which level these bugs are coming. If it is on very front level on the pages, what we user will definitely open and see, so that has to check with the severity and priority also.
Now consider there is an application, web-based application, which has a number of pages like 1 to 30 pages are there in that web application. So is there any effective way to test that all the pages are working?
Like manually we can check using one tool is there, Senior, in which we basically put the URL of the website and it checks the broken links. If they are there, it will show the broken links, the list of the broken links.
Okay.
And using Selenium, we can check broken links using like capturing all broken links with the tag name, which will display all the links, and then we can check if they are working also or not using the method HTTP request. I don't remember that method right now, but we can check by fetching all the basically the links which are available on the website and checking if they are redirecting also to correct page or not. We can also check that by using asserts over in the script itself.
So what is the difference between data-driven framework and keyword-driven framework?
I have an idea about the data-driven framework. Like in data-driven framework, basically you fetch the data from the Excel sheet in which you use a third-party tool, that is Apache Poi. And like in my company also, they are using data-driven framework in which they are running their test scripts using TestNG XML. And for triggering the test script, they are using Maven, through which the trigger is a pom.xml file, basically. So data driven is basically used when you have to fetch a lot of data. I mean, it's very difficult to test the application with several data. So you can fetch that with the help of Apache Poi.
Correct. Okay. Now consider there are almost 500 test cases, for example, for your application, which cover end-to-end testing. Okay. Now the management comes and tell you that you have to convert all these test cases to automation. So what would be your strategy? What would be your approach?
See, all test cases cannot be definitely converted into automation, because even there are some test cases, there will be some test cases which can be very easily tested manually. And there must be some test cases. Basically, the Selenium tool is meant for those test cases automation, which are very continuously, like they are fall into the regression part. You can't run the same test cases again and again. You put it into the automation scripts. So we have to select what kind of test cases basically we can convert into automation. Also, we can take into consideration the smoke and sanity test cases, which can be added into the automation script as well. But the test cases which are very easy to do manually, we can definitely go with manual testing, because leaving manual testing always plays a role even when you are doing the automation.
Correct. So that is a very valid point. Out of 500, all the 500 cannot be automated. So you will be first filtering some of the negative test cases would be there. You will be filtering them. Then you will also consider the test cases that are, as you were mentioning, the regression point of view or from business high priority point of view. So those you can segregate and you can target them first for the automation. Okay. Now let's say there is a member in your team who was supposed to complete the story in this particular sprint. You have 2 weeks of sprint, for example, and you have given him or her a story which was supposed to be completed in that particular sprint, but somehow he could not complete, right? So what would be your next step? Right. So there was a user story. He was not on leave also. He was working, but somehow that story has not completed within the time range of sprint. So what would you do?
See, it depends actually how much time basically is left. In case I'm left with 1 or 2 days, I will try to make the person again understand the requirement and work on it. But in case there is a time crunch also and we don't have time to understand and then work on it, then definitely I will work, have the meeting with product owner in case like it is not very important and we can put into the next sprint and go with it. Okay. That can be one of the way out for this.
One of the way. Or you can basically, if you have someone free, so you can allocate him to that task so that together if combined that they can do. Okay. Now consider next scenario. Suppose you have given a green signal or sign off for one particular story or feature in the sprint 1. Now you come to sprint 2 and you are able to find some of the defects for the story which was there in the sprint 1, and it is impacting sprint 2 story also. Some of the integration scenarios are there. So what would be your test strategy for this sprint 2 basically?
Basically, that means like for sprint 1, the proper regression testing was not conducted.
Mhm.
So we have to definitely release a patch build for that, which will do the regression and also have the new implementations in it. That will go in sprint 2.
Correct. What is hotfix?
Hotfix is basically exactly a build which you are putting, giving a fix of what went wrong in the last build, and it's done immediately basically.
Okay. Okay, Shuchi, I am done with the interview. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, sir. Actually, you can give me the feedback, and I am learning automation, but I feel very nervous when you talk about writing the code, and because I'm spending most of the time in Selenium learning also. It's not that, but yes, I feel very much nervous when I talk about the code. So, is it important at my stage I have to go through each and every Java code and understand like how it goes?
Yeah. So see, currently, as you have mentioned, you have 7.5 years only experience in manual testing. You have got 2 years of experience in automation, right? So what the people or the organization where you will be giving the interviews, what they would expect that you should have a mix of knowledge of both. Manual testing, you have a good knowledge. You were able to answer, in a much confident, or you were able to understand the situations and respond accordingly in real-time questions also. But from automation perspective, at least if you don't have that much hands-on experience in Java, what you can do is you can tell them the logic on a high level. For example, let's say the question was on putting all the zeros in an array at the end. Okay, so what you will have to first look is you will have an array with 6 elements. For example, 3 are non-zero elements and 3 are zero elements. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to put a for loop first. You will be traversing for each and every element in an array, and then you will be also keeping an if condition to determine if that element which you are processing is a zero element or it's a non-zero element.
Exactly. Right.
If it's a zero element, then you will process it at the end, or if it's a non-zero element, then you will target it first, because we are supposed to, that is what the output is, we are supposed to keep the non-zero elements first and zero element at the end, right?
Right.
So what you can do is you don't need to write each and every program, that is fine, the answer that you told, but you can tell them, okay, on a very high level logic basis, you can tell them the logic, so at least they know, okay, behind the scenes she is knowing. Because ultimately they won't ask you to write the Java programs, but let's say tomorrow you are already working as a QA manager or QA lead position. So now how will you evaluate that if some person comes to you in a team and tells that I need 2 days or 3 days for writing this code? You would be able to evaluate that this particular time is required to them only if you have some ground level knowledge of the task which he or she is already doing. Otherwise, what they will do is they will complete the task in half day and then they'll sit idle for 2.5 days.
Right.
They might take the advantage of this situation, right? Ultimately, the company will be suffering due to this. And then slowly and gradually they'll do the analysis, and then this would be the outcome. Right? So that is why what you can do is you can keep some ground level knowledge with you. So at least when not only within the team, or let's say tomorrow you have to do some conversation with the development team, you have raised a defect and they are telling no, this much time is taken, that is fine. They have their expertise in their development thing, but it should not be something that they might start dominating you. It should be a win-win situation for both the teams, right?
Yes.
So from that angle also you have to think, right?
Got it.
Right? So ground level knowledge, the basic knowledge you can keep, so that if anyone is stuck, or let's say if anyone is leaving the company and someone is coming, so what kind of KT is required, what kind of automation knowledge he should give to him before leaving the company. So those kind of things you'll have to see, right?
Yes. Yeah. Got it. I will work on it definitely.
Yeah. So rest all looks good, Suchi. Anything
Okay.
else?
No, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was nice talking to you, and all the best for your career.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right.
Bye.
Any feedback for the channel? Like what kind of videos would you like
The
to?
channel is actually very great because whenever I get stuck somewhere on any kind of concept, I always look for the videos, whether it's your channel, whether it's two, three more channels. But this mock interview thing is so great and helpful to us that we gain a lot of confidence, and the exact replies basically what you always try to give your people. So it always helps us to have a clarity on the concepts. That is much appreciable thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and please share our channel link and name with in your network and in your within your friends.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Bye.